Tyla might still be new to the spotlight, but it seems like her rise has not come without a few storms. Even though she has only been in the mainstream eye for a short time, she is already stirring up some serious waves. Whispers are starting to circulate in industry circles. Rumor has it there is already quiet tension between her and none other than Rihanna. Word is, things behind the scenes may not be as friendly as fans would hope. And for someone still carving her place in the game, clashing with a global icon like Rihanna this early on is raising quite a few eyebrows. Tyla has never been shy about her admiration for Rihanna. She has called her a role model in just about every interview since stepping into the limelight. But behind all the praise, there is an uncomfortable silence coming from Rihanna's side. Despite the open love Tyla has shown, Rihanna has reportedly turned down a chance to collaborate with her. And it is not just a scheduling thing. Sources say she is simply not impressed. From Rihanna's point of view, Tyla's style might be coming a little too close to her own lane, and she is not exactly thrilled about it. While the rest of the industry seems to be embracing Tyla with open arms, even Beyoncé gave her a warm welcome, Rihanna remains noticeably distant. It is as if Rihanna is intentionally drawing a line in the sand, making it crystal clear that she is not here for the comparisons or the admiration. And for Tyla, who has looked up to her for years, that silence probably speaks louder than words. Rihanna, according to some inside sources, would prefer if Tyla stopped bringing her up in interviews. What started as admiration from Tyla has now started to feel a bit too much, and Rihanna is apparently not pleased with the constant mention. It seems that what was once a respectful acknowledgement of inspiration has started to come across as pushing things a little too far, and it's not sitting well with Rihanna. Interestingly, in the beginning of Tyla's rise to fame, it wasn't Rihanna that people thought might have a problem with her. Many fans actually thought it would be Beyoncé who would be wary of Tyla, considering how much Tyla's style resembled Beyoncé's in certain ways. However, Tyla rarely spoke about Beyoncé publicly, even though her visuals, choreography, and overall aesthetic seemed to have been heavily influenced by Queen Bee. When Tyla released the music video for Push to Start, things took an interesting turn. Fans of Beyoncé, especially the very loyal and passionate Beehive, quickly noticed the similarities between Tyla's work and Beyoncé's iconic style. From the dance moves to the way the camera angles were set up, even down to the color tones used in the video, everything about it felt reminiscent of Beyoncé's music videos. It wasn't just a slight resemblance. It was very bold and obvious. The Beehive, never one to shy away from calling things out, quickly began to point out how much Tyla's video seemed like a mashup of Beyoncé's greatest hits. This caught Tyla off guard. She had spent weeks, maybe even longer, feeling the pressure from Beyoncé's fans. The Beehive didn't hold back, and they made it clear that they weren't going to let it slide. Tyla faced criticism from all sides, and it wasn't easy to shake off. The constant heat and backlash from Beyoncé's dedicated fan base made things very difficult for her, even though she had never directly mentioned Beyoncé as her biggest influence or source of inspiration. Fans weren't just comparing her to Beyoncé. They were accusing her of trying to imitate her. For Tyla, the whole experience was a learning curve. She had admired Beyoncé for years, but the way her work was being perceived now felt different. Tyla's intentions may have been genuine in terms of admiration and inspiration, but for a lot of fans, it started to feel like she was trying to walk in Beyoncé's footsteps. There was no doubt that Beyoncé's influence on Tyla was huge, especially in terms of the way Tyla presented herself visually. Yet the constant comparison and the heat from Beyoncé's fans only added to the pressure Tyla was already facing as a rising star. On top of all that, Tyla had yet to receive any public acknowledgement from Beyoncé herself. While Beyoncé is known for keeping things private and not always addressing every artist who is inspired by her, the lack of any kind of public recognition left many fans questioning why Tyla had not been acknowledged. This silence was something that Tyla, understandably, took personally. She had mentioned Beyoncé as an influence on multiple occasions, but it seemed like Beyoncé wasn't interested in addressing it. What made this situation even more complicated was that Tyla was in a similar situation with Rihanna, who, as mentioned, had also been a major inspiration for her. Tyla had mentioned Rihanna in interviews too, and expressed how much she admired the artist. Tyla even said that Rihanna showed her it was possible for someone from outside the United States to make it big in the music industry. Tyla admired how Rihanna had built an empire from her music career, and she often cited Rihanna as one of the key inspirations behind her own journey. However, unlike with Beyoncé, Rihanna didn't seem to respond to Tyla's admiration at all. At first, Tyla tried to stay positive, hoping that Rihanna would eventually acknowledge her, or at the very least, support her career. But over time, it became clear that Rihanna was not interested in offering any kind of public recognition to Tyla. The silence was deafening. Some people speculated that Rihanna might feel some competition, especially considering Tyla's rising success and the way she often mentioned Rihanna as an inspiration. Still, Others believed that Rihanna was simply too focused on her own life, her family, her billion-dollar business ventures, and everything else in her world to care about what Tyla was doing. Despite the lack of acknowledgement from both Beyoncé and Rihanna, Tyla's career continued to rise. Fans supported her, and her music was well received by a growing fan base. However, the pressure and tension around her comparisons to Beyoncé and Rihanna were starting to take a toll. It was clear that she had some serious influences in her music, but constantly mentioning these stars and getting little in return was becoming frustrating for her. In fact, some people began to question whether Tyla should even keep mentioning these superstars in her interviews, as it seemed to only fuel the comparisons and the drama. The constant talk about Rihanna and Beyoncé was overshadowing Tyla's individual talent. Fans were starting to point out that it almost feels deliberate at this point. Rihanna's silence is speaking louder than words. Despite Tyla constantly showing her love and naming her as a major influence in every interview, Rihanna has yet to offer even the smallest sign that she is paying attention. No likes, no mentions, no subtle nods, nothing. It is as if she is choosing to stay completely disconnected, no matter how loud Tyla's admiration gets. And that silence stands out even more when you look at how other icons have responded. In 2023, when Tyla's breakout hit Water went viral, Janet Jackson jumped in with nothing but support. She posted a joyful video on her Instagram story, dancing and singing along to the track. That was not just a passing moment either. Janet went on to perform Water live during her tour, making it crystal clear that she saw and appreciated Tyla. Ciara also showed love more recently, publicly expressing how much she enjoys watching Tyla's journey, and even saying she would love to collaborate with her if the opportunity comes. These are powerhouse women in the industry giving Tyla her flowers, yet Rihanna continues to stay silent. And for fans, that silence has started to feel more like a message than a coincidence. Even Ciara had no hesitation when it came to showing love to Tyla. In fact, it was Ciara's warm words in that interview, where she openly praised Tyla and expressed interest in working with her, that lit the match online. Fans quickly pointed out the glaring absence of one name, Rihanna. At this stage, with so many legends embracing Tyla, people started to feel like Rihanna's silence was more than just coincidence. It was beginning to look personal. One fan on X summed up the sentiment perfectly, saying, "I'm going to say, this is a Navy. It's weird that the one person Tyla constantly praises has never even acknowledged her. I'm talking about you, Rihanna." That comment struck a chord and spread fast, because it echoed a growing frustration. People are not just noticing Rihanna's silence, they are taking it personally. And the reason it hits so hard is because Tyla has never been shy about her admiration. She has been singing Rihanna's praises from the very start of her career, calling her the biggest inspiration time and time again. That kind of consistent love, met with complete indifference, has started to sting, not just for Tyla's supporters, but for fans who remember when Rihanna was in a similar position. When Rihanna first broke out, she too faced endless comparisons to Beyoncé. And like Tyla, she publicly expressed how much she looked up to her. But Beyoncé stayed silent, and the tension only worsened once those messy Jay-Z rumors made headlines. Now, years later, Rihanna seems to be playing the very same role she once resented, leaving people to wonder if this is a full circle moment or just a cycle repeating itself. Because, like I mentioned before, Tyla has been shouting from the rooftops in nearly every interview that Rihanna is her biggest inspiration. She is not just casually name-dropping, she is genuinely paying homage. And that is what makes Rihanna's silence feel so loud. What is interesting is that this whole situation mirrors Rihanna's own early years in the spotlight. When she first broke onto the scene, the industry instantly began comparing her to Beyoncé. And just like Tyla today, Rihanna responded with grace. She praised Beyoncé endlessly, calling her a major influence. But back then, Beyoncé did not acknowledge Rihanna publicly. She stayed quiet, distant, and that silence created space for all kinds of narratives, especially when those wild rumors about Rihanna and Jay-Z started swirling across tabloids. Now here we are, years later, and it feels like the roles have reversed. Rihanna, once the overlooked newcomer craving recognition from her idol, is now the superstar staying silent while a rising artist looks up to her with nothing but admiration. And just like before, the silence is creating tension, inviting speculation, feeding rumors, and making people question whether this is about industry politics or something more personal. There was this one moment that I'll never forget. It was at one of my showcases, and I was getting introduced to everyone at the label. Then, he said, "Okay, there's one more person I want you to meet." And there she was. I couldn't even find the words. I was completely speechless. When I met Beyoncé, I couldn't help but tell her how much I admired her. I told her, "You're someone I've looked up to for so long." And she was so kind. She actually wrote me this adorable letter, signed it with her autograph, just the sweetest gesture. In the letter, she told me to Let loose when you perform, have fun, and always be in control. Her words meant the world to me. I've always admired both Beyoncé and Rihanna, and I've gotten advice from both of them in different ways. Boy, mentor always tells me to stay humble and true to myself, just like I am. That advice has stuck with me. And to have Beyoncé personally give me some tips, it was incredible. That kind of guidance from someone I respect so much, it's something I'll carry with me forever. Behind the scenes, there have always been whispers about how some artists manage to keep certain connections under wraps, avoiding any public acknowledgement while still working together in private. Beyoncé, for example, was rumored to have a relationship with Rihanna during her early days, but never publicly recognized her. Many fans believe that's one of the reasons Rihanna and Beyoncé never collaborated, because Beyoncé refused to acknowledge her in a public way, despite the connections through Jay-Z. This rate, the situation continues to feel charged, like a game of one-upmanship where no one is quite ready to show their cards just yet. It seems like things are getting even more complicated between Tyla and Rihanna, especially when it comes to Rihanna's interactions with Ira Star. Ira, a Nigerian artist, has become the subject of tension between her fans and Tyla's fans. Tyla's supporters have been vocal about feeling like Ira doesn't have the same global recognition that Tyla has, and it's only adding fuel to the fire. Tyla's growing influence on the global stage is not going unnoticed, and it's clear that some of Ira's fans feel threatened by this shift. But the most interesting part is how Rihanna has chosen to acknowledge Ira while seemingly ignoring Tyla. Rihanna has praised Ira on several occasions and even went so far as to tell her that she would love to collaborate with her, offering her a verse. In a recent exchange, Rihanna expressed admiration for Ira's music, saying, "You know, my favorite place in the whole world is Barbados," referring to her home country. "And when I went to Barbados, I couldn't stay outside. I just love being there." It's an interesting comment because, while Rihanna acknowledges Ira's talent, her continued silence toward Tyla speaks volumes. For Tyla's fans, it only reinforces the belief that Rihanna may be picking sides, showing more public affection for Ira than she has for Tyla, despite Tyla's consistent praise for Rihanna in interviews. The situation is becoming even more charged, and now it's not just about who's dominating the music scene, it's also about who Rihanna chooses to align herself with. The silence between her and Tyla, especially when Rihanna is openly supporting Ira, makes it seem like Tyla's aspirations to surpass Rihanna might be stirring up more than just friendly competition. The situation between Tyla and Rihanna has been growing more intense, with fans speculating about what Rihanna might do next. There's now a belief that Rihanna might choose to collaborate with another artist, Ira Star, before even considering working with Tyla. This idea is adding even more tension between the two artists and their fan bases. Ira Star's popularity is growing quickly, and Rihanna has shown support for her in public. Because of this, it's starting to feel like Tyla is being left behind in the shadows. Some people believe that Rihanna doesn't need to acknowledge Tyla if she doesn't want to. After all, Rihanna has built an empire, and with her billion-dollar business, she's got other things to focus on. She doesn't have to give attention to every new artist that comes along. Many people agree with this point of view, understanding that Rihanna has already achieved so much in her career and probably has bigger things to worry about than engaging in drama or conflicts with other artists. As her brand continues to expand, it makes sense that she would prioritize her next steps and growth instead of involving herself in petty industry battles. One comment stood out, which said, "I honestly think Tyla should just stop bringing up Rihanna all the time. Let Rihanna do her thing, and if she ever wants to acknowledge Tyla, she will." This is a powerful idea. It suggests that Tyla might be better off stepping back from constantly trying to get Rihanna's attention and instead focus on her own career. Trying to gain approval or validation from someone else can sometimes hold you back, and it might be more beneficial for Tyla to pave her own way. If Rihanna ever decides to recognize her, that's great, but it shouldn't be Tyla's main goal. This advice could actually help Tyla grow and find success in her own right, without depending on someone else's recognition. Sometimes the best path to success is the one where you carve your own trail. Tyla is already doing well on her own, gaining popularity and recognition from fans all over the world. Her music is being listened to, and her fan base is growing. Instead of focusing too much on whether Rihanna will acknowledge her or not, Tyla can keep building her own career. Rihanna's success isn't the only model for success. Every artist has their own journey, and Tyla's is just beginning. It's also important to note that Tyla has made it clear that Rihanna has been a major influence on her, and she's mentioned this in several interviews. She has said that Rihanna showed her that it's possible for someone from outside of America to make it big in the music industry. For Tyla, Rihanna was a role model in showing how a non-American artist can achieve global fame. This respect and admiration are what led Tyla to mention Rihanna frequently in interviews. However, Fans and critics are now pointing out that perhaps Tyla should stop comparing herself to Rihanna and instead focus on developing her own unique style and identity. While Tyla has every right to admire and be inspired by Rihanna, the constant comparisons might be causing more harm than good. Every artist has to go through their own challenges and milestones, and it's important not to get stuck in the shadow of those who came before you. Rihanna had to carve her own path, and Tyla can do the same. If Rihanna sees Tyla as competition, or if there's any jealousy involved, it's something that can't be controlled. What Tyla can control, though, is how she moves forward in her career. It's not just about competing with someone else. It's about being the best version of yourself. Tyla has proven she has talent, and she's already achieved a lot in a short amount of time. By focusing on her growth and continuing to make music that connects with people, she can keep building her own legacy. Rihanna, on the other hand, is in a different stage of her career. She's focused on business ventures, family, and enjoying the fruits of her labor. It's not likely that Rihanna is worried about Tyla's rise, but rather focused on what's next for her own empire. Instead of getting caught up in the drama, Tyla might want to take a step back and realize that her success